Welcome back to today's discussion. All right, so I saw a video the other day that talked about kind of integrating healthier lifestyle, and really one of the tips they were talking about was effectively if you don't want yourself or other people to eat, say something like Oreos is what they were talking about, then don't buy them, because if they're not in the house, you won't eat them and you won't be tempted by them. But if they're in the house, then you'll be tempted by them, you'll go ahead and eat them. Now, when you're getting started with a new habit, especially a habit of doing something that's, say, eating healthier, that's a really good tip. However, I don't think it's sustainable long term for multiple reasons. One, you can't control the environment when you travel necessarily. So if you're in a place like a hotel that stocks the mini bar with that kind of stuff and you don't have the self-control to avoid eating it, well then every single time you travel, you're going to fall back into that old habit. Now, if you travel frequently, then that just means your habit will never get established. Say you go to friends and family's house and they have it all the time, and you can't control yourself around that. Well, then again, you're just going to continually break your habit and never really establish it. So although I think it's decent advice and it's very good for the initial stages to start building that callus in your mind, or getting a new habit in place before you start doing some of those other things. However, like I said, I don't think it's a good long-term strategy. So for me, I initially started with that, but I also knew that I was in an environment when people would constantly bring stuff at work. And that's where I had the biggest issue, was at work, with all the candy, cookies, cake, cupcakes, everything people were bringing in. I struggled to say no every time I walked by, and you'd walk by 15, 20 times a day and see something. So I started with small habits of just saying no one time a day. And the rest of the time I could say yes. And then as that got easier, I kept building up, doing more per day, and then eventually one full day, and then eventually was able to kind of do it at will. And that led me then to understand the cycle of it and the mentality and how long I had before my cravings would go away and all those different things. And then eventually, as I progressed, and now this is again years down the road, I figured out what foods I was eating that were quote unquote healthy that would actually trigger some of those other cravings in the longer term. So again, even though I think that's decent advice for your own house, it's hard to continue that if your house isn't the problem. So again, if you want to learn some more of these tips and tricks and get a really good head start on your building your new life of change, reach out to me. Let's have a conversation.